Hello, everyone. My name's Tomato Anus. Today is January 15th, 2025, and this is the Patreon Speedrun Explained retrospective series where I go and I watch old videos of mine and I make notes about what they did and didn't do well, just trying to make sure I am still learning things and learning from what I did well in the past or didn't do well in the past and try and make my videos better today. If you are watching this in 2026, wow, that's a number I've never said before. If you're watching this in 2026, well, you could have watched this a whole year earlier by going to patreon.com/tomatoanus and supporting at the middle tier and up. That is currently the $6 tier. You get access to all of these as they come out. I'm still making these. We're not caught up on these yet. I think it might be a while before we're all caught up on these videos, but what are we watching today? Well, we are watching my speedrun of Mirror's Edge Speedrun Explained Any Percent as performed by Vodium. This video came out March 24th, 2020, which is like right at the start of COVID. This video is very linked in my mind with the start of COVID. Same goes with my Battle for Bikini Bottom video. This one came out, I want to say like May-ish. Also, Edison says hello, as you guys can see. She is chilling here, though she wants to get something that's on my desk, so she keeps trying to go that way. But hello from Edison. There we are. Hello from Ed. But yes, Mirror's Speedrun of Mirror's Edge. This is a run that I wanted to cover early. You know, we're still early. Grand scheme of things, we're still early with these videos, right? I wouldn't say it's until like we get to Stardew Valley that we're out of like the early videos. This was when I swapped to Premiere Pro. This was when I went full time with YouTube. I'd still say we're very early, but this is a run that I wanted to make even earlier than I did. I wanted to make it like in this batch or so, but it's a really technical movement run, and I was a bit intimidated by it. And this was the first time I was making a video that and this is the first time I was making a video that, you know, I had put off for reasons. This was one I wanted to cover, but just I was afraid of how much work it would be. I was afraid of how difficult it would be to make this script and have it be concise and not just be a headache for myself. And it was personally a very important video for myself to make, in that it proved to myself that I could make videos really about most speedruns. It was like, man, well, if I can make a video covering this crazy, super fast technical speedrun, I feel like I can make it about most speedruns. Another speedrun that was in the same boat as this is the Titanfall 2 video I made with Brian Otto. That was another one that I wanted to make early on, but was very intimidated by. It was like really these two. I don't think there have been any other runs that I've covered since then that I like had kind of put off. Maybe Portal. You know, I think Tony Hawk Underground. Just there's been a handful of videos that been really technical runs, so been intimidating to cover. This video, what do I remember about the making of it? What do I remember about the video itself? A fair bit. First, the thumbnail. Let's talk about this. The thumbnail, I really like this thumbnail. It's kind of inspired by the Doom one and the anthology one with the color. It's the first time I did a character with color on both sides of them. I did it later with Breath of the Wild. I did it way later than with Portal. I feel like this is a type of thumbnail that I feel as though I've done more than I have. Like looking, I've only done 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, and then the 4th being Portal. Yeah. I feel like I've done more thumbnails in this style, but I guess I haven't. It does feel very like classic Tomato Anus thumbnail style, though. Maybe that's just because Doom, it sticks out in my head as like one of my main classic video/thumbnails. This thumbnail specifically, This art right here is not my own. I actually reached out to someone who posted this art to Reddit, and I was like, "Hey," I explained who I was, the video I was making. I was like, "Hey, would you mind if I used your art in a thumbnail?" And they said, "No, not at all. All I ask is that you send me the link to the video." So we did that. But it's a pretty similar or pretty simple thumbnail. I do like this style a lot. I could see myself making more videos with this thumbnail style. Um, Contents of the video wise, I remember this is the first video with the new tech pop-ins. I think this is the first video where I show the runner's information on screen. Like there's the Vodium kind of title card in a way. This is the first video that includes jokes referencing movies that then have clips from that movie played. Like there's a clip from Polar Express. There's a clip from The Dark Knight Rises. The first time I did a flashback was in this video. This video as a whole is like what I would consider to be like my big turning point in terms of video production. I feel like this is when I made a big step in how my presentation was in my videos. Like with all of those things, there's a lot more visually going on. Sorry, a lot more going on visually. I feel like I was just a lot more ambitious with this video. There's the entire rhyming chapter, which I'll talk about when we get to it. That's chapter 8, which is Kate. There's, I want to say there's alliteration in this video as well, which I really like doing. Trying to think. Something as well is I mentioned this video came out near the start of COVID. March 24th, 2020. The big COVID day, at least in America, was March 11th. That was when Rudy Gobert tested positive. The NBA shut down. Tom Hanks was positive. It was a Wednesday. I remember sitting on my couch playing games and all of this news coming out. I believe I was playing Horizon Zero Dawn. All of this news coming out, texting with my friends like, what the fuck, man? This I can't believe this is actually happening. Oh, God. We all need to go get groceries. I remember all that going on while I was working on this video. There's also a joke in this video. There's like avian flu on elevator panel, and I made a joke like I remember I had actually 2 jokes there. I had a joke originally more directly calling out coronavirus, and like I think I don't know, it felt like a pretty cheap, lazy joke, something with a like Corona the beer. And then this situation seemed to be a bit more serious, so I opted to just make it a bit more tongue-in-cheek reference of like, I think we have something a bit different to worry about right now as opposed to avian flu, though avian flu is no joke, absolutely no joke. But I remember having that reference to like current events in there. Yeah, I can't think of too much else in advance, so I think we should just get started on watching this video.
Hey everyone, my name's Tomato Anus, also known as the reason why the big man stays upstairs.
Okay, so I think this is the either first or second time I did a viewer suggested, also known as. There might have been one in the previous video as well. I can't remember. I think there was one in the Ocarina of Time video, but if not, then this is the first. I like doing viewer suggested, also known as, and I've also done a couple of them over the years, but if I'm being honest, like I'm really picky about the also known as, and I feel like a lot of people who leave joke comments like also known as this, like doing their own ones, I feel like a lot of people, not everyone, just a lot of people don't get what I'm going for with them. It's usually self-deprecating, right? Like if I'm able to make a joke about small penis size, that's usually what it is. There are additional things. The reason God hides from us, the reason my parents divorced, all that stuff, the reason why I haven't heard from my dad in decades or some shit like that. There's like a specific vibe about them that I feel like a lot of people don't get. And I still will and would do also known as that are viewer submitted, but I feel like just not a lot of the submitted ones are quite what I go for.
And this is a segmented any percent speedrun of Mirror's Edge. This run is performed by Vodiem, the current world record holder for this category, who also helped me write the script to make sure it's all as accurate as possible.
Yeah, so first time ever doing this. This is great. I remember while I was editing this video, trying to get into the run as quickly as possible while still covering all this stuff. I feel like this is an intro similar to the intros I'm trying to make now.
If you would like to watch either this segmented run without commentary, or Vodiem's current any percent world record, which is also commentary
Drop Shadow for the first time,
free, there are links in the description below. Also, with this being any percent, glitches are allowed. If you would prefer a run with...
I like that. I like that I show preview footage early on of the world record and show how buggy it is. I really like that. I think that that's good. I think that I've talked a bit about my video run selection process, and something I've talked about is that I want to be able to skip to like any point in the video and have something interesting visually going on. That's best case scenario. So that way, if someone pulls up a video, they jump around, they see, oh, okay, this shit's interesting. Okay, whoa, that's crazy. How do they do that? So I do really like showing the preview footage of the world record early in the video, just as a little whet your appetite type thing.
Description below. Also, with this being any percent, glitches are allowed. If you would prefer a run without glitches, I've linked the current glitchless world record by Rec in the description as well. Real quick, here's a rundown if you're unfamiliar with Mirror's Edge and how it's structured. You play as Faith, a postal worker who's great at parkour who lives in a utopian city.
I got a lot of comments from people being like, it's not utopian, it's dystopian. It's like, I guess the air quotes didn't come across clear in my commentary.
A popular public figure and friend of Faith's family is found doing a big sleep, and Faith and her sister Kate are framed. Over the span of 9 chapters, 11 if you count the tutorial and prologue, you try and get to your sister while avoiding being captured by a security corporation. The goal of this speedrun is to complete these chapters as fast as possible, utilizing any tools at our disposal. Now,
the movement of this all is very nice. It's very, it's a little bit like John Boy in the way that like things are rotating into frame. It's like not John Boy at all, but little bit with way things are like rotating into and out of frame. It's all very what's the word? Not connected, but you know, it's almost like all of these things are on hinges and rotating into frame in a way. It's all very fluid, which is nice.
Faith's family is found doing a big sleep, and Faith and her sister Kate are framed. Over the span of 9 chapters, 11 if you count the tutorial.
Like, not only do you have Faith come in, you have the dead dude rotate in, you have him rotate out, you have this come in with the rotation out, and you also have this sliding down to reveal. Like, yeah, there's 9 chapters, but there's also like intro shit. And this is like kind of a jokey way of representing that. Good. This is all really good. It's all just feels very cohesive, right? All feels very cohesive.
And prologue, you try and get to your sister while avoiding being captured by a security corporation. The goal of this speedrun is to complete these chapters as fast as possible, utilizing any tools at our disposal. Now, this run comes sprinting out of the gate, with us immediately pausing to skip the training area. This then leads to the prologue, which begins with Vodiem immediately doing what appears to be using his leg as a helicopter blade to fly over city blocks. Now, this is a combination of several movement speed tech, but the most prominent and visible is what's called the kick glitch. If you perform a wall run and then
kick... First time having new tech pop in on screen. This is big. Let me move this around. Well, there we go. This is big. This is the first time we ever did this. I think I was just using a preset, a preset in Sony Vegas for text on screen, but big. This is something I still do. This is like a staple of my videos. Like, this is, I think, super important. My thinking for originally doing this, and the thinking that I still stand by, is if there are no visual callouts, excuse me, I keep yawning. If there are no visual callouts on screen like this for tech when it's explained, one, it's harder for the viewer. I guess it's easier for the viewer to internalize something as important and something to remember if they are both hearing the word spoken and they see the text. You know, that's really big, really important, really helps internalize and remember, because now they're like, oh, kick glitch, okay. And like, it's something that they've registered in their brain. They know it's important, and it's not going to be something that just exits their mind. And then 20 minutes from now, they're like, wait, what's that? What's that kicking thing again? You know, it just helps them lock in with that, right? So good, good. This is something that I still do, all for those reasons. I think it's super important. I think that the amount to which the general populace are visual learners cannot be understated.
It creates a floor underneath us, which means that we can perform any action in midair that we normally can only perform on solid ground, including jumping. This floor only lasts for one frame though, so Vodiem has jump bound to his scroll wheel so he can consistently hit the jump after performing the kick glitch. Every time you perform a kick glitch, you gain a little bit of momentum, increasing your overall speed. When we sprint on the ground normally, we top out at a max velocity of around 26 kilometers per hour. You can go faster than that though, as long as you don't touch the ground. By chaining multiple kick glitches together, we continually benefit from the additional speed boost from each kick glitch, and it won't be brought back down to 26 kilometers per hour until we touch the ground next.
So this is something that I do struggle with in videos that I try to do. This, I think, is a really good example of it. Same with my Titanfall 2 video, is that you don't need to explain everything out of the gate. Like, you can see he's already doing stuff here that I'm going to explain way later in the video. Right here, he does a wall strafe when he goes outside. Right here, wall strafe, which is something that I'll talk about later. I don't need to pause and explain the wall strafe now, though. It's just too much. It's just a little too much for the viewer. So I really like this as a format where I'm prioritizing the tech to explain. Kick glitch. Kick glitch is very important. It's very apparent. Probably should talk about it first. More nuanced things, they'll get explained as the run goes on, right? I think I did this well in my recent Half-Life and Half-Life 2 video. But just in general, like, and I think this is something that I haven't had any experiences with runners where I've really had to push on this. I feel as though it's something that a runner might like disagree with. I haven't had any experiences where runners have given pushback on it though. But I could see a situation where a runner or, you know, someone might be saying like, hey, I do think it's important we talk about all of these up front. And I understand where they're coming from, but I do think that the drip of information makes for a better video than the info dump into just watching. Of course, there are exceptions to that. My Portal Out of Bounds video, there's no way you could do a drip of information with that unless you're pausing every second and ruining the pace of the run. There's no way that that video would work with this drip of information. But like other videos, like this one, I think really do work. As long as you have enough time to explain everything during the run without, you know, derailing the run, then yeah, explain throughout. So I really like how this is like, you know, it's that pyramid concept where you're laying out the basic tenets of movement while you're watching the full arsenal at use. And by the end of the video, you're going to have a full understanding of it all. But it takes time to get there. It takes us time to build that toolbox. It takes specific key examples from the run of each individual piece of tech. You know, it's you need to find the best time to explain each individual thing and flesh out the full tool belt that Vodium and other runners have at their disposal. So I really like the information drip in this video. I think it's a big positive. I think that Speedrun Explains as a format benefit from the drip of information and not just dumping all at once. But again, that's not to say that's not strictly the correct way to do it. There are certain videos where it is, in certain speedruns, where I do think that it is better for the viewer to have all of the information presented to them at once.
6 kilometers per hour until we touch the ground next. Once we get outside, we need to make it to a rooftop where we're going to be greeted by a helicopter.
Okay, so it's not perfect, of course. Already we have, once we get outside, we've already been outside for 10 seconds, bud. So it's not all sunshine and roses. There's still, the typical hallmarks that I've talked about where, syncing up commentary to dialogue. I guess I wasn't fully doing that yet. I don't know when I start fully doing that, but clearly I haven't. Usually, I don't know why I'm not even tired. I'm just so yawny today. Yeah, the commentary sync still isn't perfect. That's something that needs improvement.
Now, there's a lot going on here that can be explained, but one of the things that I personally find most interesting is something called wall boost. If you perform a wall run and then jump off as opposed to doing a kick glitch, you gain a bit of speed. However, you can gain more speed than normal if you look more into the wall when you jump off.
Oh, I guess earlier when I called out wall strafing, I guess this is what it was, wall boosting. I've been watching too much like Titanfall, COD speedruns, watching Brian Otto at GDQ.
Means that the closer to perpendicular that you look at the wall when you jump, the more speed you gain. Real quick, once we do our trust fall here towards the helicopter, we're now officially in chapter 1 titled Flight.
That was good. That was good. Once we do the trust fall here, throwing in the here. So I guess I am at times changing the script for meeting the gameplay, but not every time.
Trust fall here towards the helicopter, we're now officially in chapter 1 titled Flight.
Trust fall towards the helicopter, good job.
Back to wall boosting, it lets us move over the intended 26 km per hour maximum running speed. Wall boosts, as with many other things, are hard to notice if you aren't super familiar with what you're looking at, and also because some of them are immediate. So next time Vodium is about to do a wall boost, I'll put something up on the screen so you know when to look for it, and you'll then know what it looks like. So in this chapter, we're going to be making our way to meet up with our sister, where we'll unfortunately find the sleeping public figure. Along the way, we ride an elevator for a brief moment of respite.
That was
where
good. Okay,
sleeping public
this
figure.
is good.
Making our way to meet up with our sister.
I do think I really like this concept. I really like. I do the countdowns a lot. I still do these in videos when I call things out that I think are, when I call things out in advance, and then I do the countdown so the viewer can actually visually. And I do the countdown so the viewer can actually visually piece. Oh, this is what he was just talking about. I really like the repeated here and here and here and here. I really like that. I do wish the text was on screen a little bit longer because it's a little too quick to where a viewer might be pausing, rewinding, and everything. Maybe instead of it being here, flash here, flash and here, flash and here, flash and here. It's here, add and here, add and here, and so by the end it's here and here and here and here, as opposed to here and here and here and here and here.
Where we'll unfortunately find the sleeping public figure. Along the way, we ride an elevator for a brief moment of rest.
I think that would probably be a better way to do it, but I do really like the repeated here and here and here and here. Good call outs.
Bit where Vodium displays this game's age due to its concern over a flu caused by birds, when nowadays I think we have a bit bigger of a problem to worry about. Also,
yeah, that line was the one I mentioned before we started watching this. I'm pretty sure I originally had a joke about Corona beer there. It was something but nowadays people seem to be talking about that beer more and more, something along those lines, and I just felt like it in a little bit of poor taste considering the severity of the situation and how things were progressing. And I was like, I remember thinking like the last thing I want is to make this joke and in like 3 weeks have it aged horribly. So I was like, I feel like saying we have something a bit more to worry about. That just felt like making light of it while still treating it with a little bit of gravitas. Like it's still pretty important, and like it didn't just like, I felt like, especially at the time, there were people trying to downplay the severity of everything by like making jokes like, oh, it's just a beer, and I didn't want to make a joke that downplayed it at all. So I changed the wording to what it is here.
A flu caused by birds, when nowadays I think we have a bit bigger of a problem to worry about. Also, after this
Again, avian flu, no joke, super, like we could get fucked up by avian flu someday, so still something to worry about.
elevator ride, and at other times in the run, it may look like we're teleporting from one spot to another, but we're really just skipping cutscenes that relocate us to a different place than where we began. In a second, we're going to enter a hallway with all white walls, and the area we just left will have unloaded. Normally you're not supposed to be able to go back to where you just were, but Vodium is pretty good at this game and is able to do some wall runs and jumps back to the old area, allowing us to now go out of bounds. We can then beeline to a big glass slide, skipping a small chunk of the level and saving about 13 to 14 seconds. Another piece of tech that I haven't explained yet but is super prominent is called a sidestep boost, which is a faster way to accelerate. Normally it takes 6 to 7 seconds to build up our full running speed, but jumping to the side puts you at max.
All right, before I go any farther, I wanted to see if there was anything else kind of along this line, but I really like the visual call out of he's going to enter the area with the all white walls.
Spot to another, but we're really just skipping cutscenes that relocate us to a different place than where we began. In a second, we're going to enter a hallway with all white walls, and the area we just left will have unloaded.
I like that a lot. I think that that's good to call out visual clues like that. Because I found myself while we were watching it, I was like, well, it looks like I see white walls. I'm like, well, I did say all white walls, so and there are green walls here.
Normally you're not supposed to be able to go back to where you just were.
Like right here, I was like, well, it looks like we're in an all white, and I was like, oh no, okay, so I guess not yet.
Pretty good at this game and is able to do some wall runs and jumps back to the old area.
All white walls. Okay, so this is where he's gonna jump back where he's not supposed to and will be out of bounds. I think that's good. Using the visual cue, like, calling out the visual cues like that. It's not anything crazy. Calling out, I was like, when we get to this area ahead, when we get to the area with the lava up ahead, we're going to do this. When we get to the area with all the balloons, we're going to do this. Like, it's not anything crazy, but it's effective. It is effective. So I do like that. I do think pop-in footage is good, though I think that the wording here eliminated the need for pop-up footage. So I guess a takeaway here is that you can, pop-up footage is great, really great. Not in every situation, though, because of the fact that, it might be too visually noisy. So calling out, using descriptive language for where things are going to take place, when things are going to take place, is good.
To accelerate. Normally it takes 6 to 7 seconds to build up our full running speed, but jumping to the side puts you at max speed almost immediately. By jumping to the side or sidestepping and then turning to face the direction we need to go, we'll instantly be near max speed, skipping Faith's cosplay of a white sprinter at the Olympics. Changing topics, once we make it to the next indoor area, we're going to ride another elevator. If you're watching with captions on, you'll notice that the word ride was in quotes, and that's because I'm not sure if ride is the best word for it. In short, there's a glitch called use glitch that's activated by pressing the interact key twice on the...
I guess this was before I really changed tech to glitch. Use glitch. I mean, I feel like that would probably be a glitch.
Same frame.
I'm a bit more picky, and like I tell the runners, hey, feel free to be picky with how things are referred to. So that's why you'll sometimes see things like new term, new tech, new glitch, new exploit, new skip, new concepts, all that type of stuff. A bit pickier with the way I choose to present things like
by
that.
using the scroll wheel. Vodium does this as he slides into the elevator, which gives him about 1.5 seconds to do whatever he wants before the game puts him into an elevator state where he can only use WASD and pause. In this short time span, he does a backflip into the corner, which then zips him on top of the elevator, where we then stand menacingly as the elevator goes up. Once the elevator stops, Vodium runs off and briefly pauses so the game has a moment to load, which allows for him to then jump after unpausing, which is a glitch called elevator bounce. We then land and roll on some invisible floors, and also perform a kick glitch real quick that's super precise between the wall we wall run on and an invisible wall. If we didn't perform this kick glitch, we'd hit a death barrier below us. In a moment, the acid is going to start kicking in, and we'll see trails of our arms, and Vodium is going to hit a checkpoint while out of bounds in a red hallway. We then pull up the menu and manually load the checkpoint, which loads us into the checkpoint we just hit with the level fully loaded. We'll be hitting checkpoints and quit out loading at several points throughout the run. This will allow us to head to the exit of the chapter, and we'll run past and startle an LEO along the way once we get...
Alright, so this stretch from the elevator to exiting, like the elevator bounce, I remember that stretch being really, this is like less an observation on the thing and note, just a quick anecdote. I remember this being really hard to write because it's really complicated. I was trying to fit it in time. I think overall relatively successful. I think it's just like, you know, kind of complicated, so I wouldn't hold it against someone who had to rewind and rewatch or didn't fully understand. But I do think that the explanation is fully there. Pretty solid. But I remember really struggling with writing that part, and just like it's one of those things where like you sit down to do it and you're just like, oh God, this sucks. this is hard. I don't want to do this. And it would be really easy to get yourself to procrastinate just because it's like, fuck, I don't want to figure this out. Sometimes when I arrive at really hard parts in my scripting process, I get that way where I'm like, oh, this is hard. This is really hard to explain in time. I don't want to do this. Oh, it's so hard. And it's just one of those things, like, you just got to start, chip by chip. You gotta start working at it, and you'll get through it really quick as long as you keep moving forward. This is like one of those moments. I remember
this
that.
will allow us to head to the exit of the chapter, and we'll run past and startle an LEO along the way once we get moving. After we make our way across this plaza area, Vodium will make a daring leap over a highway and then squeak down a glass ramp before entering the chapter end trigger.
Audio
chapter
didn't.
End trigger.
Normally I like to do audio fades from quiet to loud. Here I boosted the audio when I wasn't talking, which is good. I like to do that. I think that's good. You can hear the quick jump though in audio volume levels. This is again something that's really irrelevant to call out, but just an observation. You can hear it go quiet to loud with zero fade. One more time.
Squeak down a glass ramp before entering the chapter end trigger.
Just a small thing. It's not really of important. I'm not going to note it because it was just because I didn't know how to do audio fades at this time. I do now, and I do all the time, so.
We start chapter 2, titled Jackknife, by immediately sidestep boosting and leaping a fence to head into a canal passage. There we do a series of wall boosts, kick glitches, and sidestep boosts, and actually end up out of bounds after we perform the kick glitch here when we get up onto the raised walkway. At one point after turning...
Oh, that was good. That was really good.
Kick glitch here when we get up onto the raised...
I was able to, one, identify that it might not be visually apparent, like, that we're out of bounds, so I made sure to say once we're up on the raised walkway, we're out of bounds. But I also was like, even then it's not super apparent, so I added the "we are out of bounds now"
raised walkway.
This is great. This is great. I really like this. Clarifying text on screen. This is really solid. Really solid. This helps immensely. Immensely. Because it doesn't feel like this is out of bounds. It doesn't feel like we should be out of bounds right now. So it just really helps clarify to the viewer, no, we're out of bounds. Like, what he just got out of bounds. This is breaking the level already.
At one point after turning a corner, Vodium will perform a series of wall boosts in a row to keep his movement speed high. After that is when we run along a walkway and jump onto and off of a railing to be able to climb and run on an invisible platform. We use this to cut a corner and drop onto a ledge that's still out of bounds. On this ledge, we do wall boosts off an invisible wall before we eventually reach an open out of bounds area that will kick glitch through to hit a checkpoint, after which we'll quit out and load. The checkpoint symbol will pop up when it seems Slenderman is getting close to us.
Again, really good. I really like this. Checkpoint symbol location. I like this. Calling the viewer's attention to an area in advance. Like, because otherwise...
The checkpoint symbol will pop up.
We're doing something when the checkpoint symbol pops up, right? Okay, well, a casual viewer might not know where to look for this. So they might be like...
Slenderman is getting close to us.
Without this, you're like, oh, wait, it happened? Wait, where was it? You know? So with this, you know, it prepares you. Good. It
is getting close to us.
Really good. Really, really good. I like that a lot.
Earlier I mentioned something called the use glitch, which in short allows us to interact with things while we're in another animation. Here we use the use glitch to interact with a gate control while we're in the air so that we don't have to climb all the way up to the platform to trigger it. Once the gate opens...
The timing was a bit off on that. I would have preferred for this line to be like 2 seconds earlier so it goes on while I do it. I'm the one doing the run now, not Vodium. Stolen Valor. I would have preferred to sync that line up a bit better with Vodium doing it, but it's not horrible. It could be better.
We're in the air so that we don't have to climb all the way up to the platform to trigger it. Once the gate opens, we sidestep boost and run through the next room, performing wall boosts whenever possible. We then proceed to climb up this enormous room, utilizing the intended pathway of ascent most of the way to progress through the area. At times we do a wall climb followed by a sidestep, which lets us then wall run and take some shortcuts, but we'll explain that tech later in the run. Right now though, I want to take some time to explain something that's a movement fundamental in this speedrun that's used all throughout the run. Bunny hopping. Now this is a term that's pretty popular not only speedrunning but gaming as a whole. If you somehow have never heard this term, it's really popular in source games like Counter-Strike and Half-Life, and it's pretty much just jumping over and over to constantly build up speed without ever losing speed from the friction of the ground. Mirror's Edge has a similar mechanic where you gain about 4 kilometers per hour of speed every time you jump. You lose the extra speed when you land, and you're not able to jump in quite as rapid succession as the source games, but you do gain speed for when you're in the air nonetheless. This is why throughout the run you'll see Vodium jump a lot randomly. After we rode down that slip and slide and did the use glitch to open the emergency gate, we begin our ascent up a tall cylindrical area that's reminiscent of some movie about a bat. As we rise in the storm drain area, whenever we have to climb up a pole, Vodium opts to wall run straight up first.
Alright, not bad. I do like that this didn't really steal time from commentary. I just kept the commentary rolling. I think that makes it feel non-intrusive, unintrusive, as opposed to something else where, you know, maybe I would like wholly stop talking for a second or two for this to play out, this Dark Knight Rises reference. So I really like that the commentary just kept rolling.
Rise in the storm drain area, whenever we have to climb up a pole, Vodium opts to wall run straight up first to skip as much of the pole shimmy as possible since shimmying, albeit seductive, is slow. Normally when climbing up, you have to use a valve to turn off the waterfall, which has collision to prevent you from jumping through it. Vodium is able to climb above the waterfall though without turning it off, so its collision is still there for us to be able to run and jump off of, like we did right when we climbed up to jump to the crane controls, and also stand on and lay down on afterwards while we wait for the crane. Changing topics.
So this is something that honestly saved by Vodium. Vodium saved this explanation by showing this off after, because otherwise, like, the sync on this is really bad, right? Like, just pay attention to how bad the sync in commentary is to the gameplay here.
Normally when climbing up, you have to use a valve to turn off the waterfall, which has collision to prevent you from jumping through it. Vodium is able to climb above the waterfall though without turning it off, so its collision is still there for us to be able to run and jump off of, like we did right when we climbed up to jump.
Like, it's already over. It's already over. And I'm still explaining you can run and jump off the waterfall. And then Vodium saved this by showing off, but like jumping and landing on that. It brings it back into relevance as, you know, more of a jokey thing, but it does help then kind of recontextualize, solidify what he did just do in like the running, climbing, jumping off it to get up here. It helps solidify that, and it keeps it relevant and relevant to talk about in the commentary like I still am. So saved by Vodium.
Jump to the crane controls and also stand on and lay down on afterwards while we wait for the crane. Changing topics real quick, throughout the run we wanted to try and avoid opening doors normally. The typical barging animation is just really slow, and we have a really hard time accelerating quickly after it. Because Faith is a big fan of the album The Warrior's Code, we're instead going to drop kick doors most of the time to open them. This is because it's fast and lets us
I think, isn't that a Dropkick Murphys album?
sidestep boost earlier than we would be able to normally. Right here though, we're just going to open the door with a mean right jab.
That's good. That was good. Sound effects. You know, I've talked in the past about letting sound effects breathe, using sound effects as a punchline. Not sound effects, game sounds as a punchline. Here's a good example.
Right here though, we're just going to open the door with a mean right jab. We're then going to perform another elevator clip like we did earlier and ride the elevator up, dropping down into the hallway before the hallway has a chance to load. Normally when you exit to the rooftop here, the character Jackknife is waiting for us and starts running away immediately and we have to chase him, but it's a little different in the speedrun because of how we got here. After getting all up inside Jackknife for a moment, Vodium begins the chase segment. If you listen closely, you can hear Jackknife also running around, but it might be hard to hear. Instead of following Jack,
I think that's good. I like when, you know, you're just given a moment to kind of observe how the game breaks due to speedruns. So letting the viewer listen to Jackknife running is a good example of just like, hey, we're really breaking the game right now. Isn't that neat?
We're instead going to start kick glitching between buildings to get through the area quickly. Once we grab onto the ledge of a building, we'll then scoot over a bit before jumping over the fence. We're going to intentionally take damage from some barbed wire in a second because like when you kick glitch, the animation of getting damaged by barbed wire creates a floor underneath Faith which lets us jump while in midair. Once we enter the blue hallway in a second, we hit a checkpoint and Vodium quits to the main menu and loads from the checkpoint because it puts us further down the hallway, skipping some running. We then ride an elevator like normal and we're going to immediately skip a cutscene that starts playing when we exit. After then getting a running start, we kick glitch to a nearby building and enter the end chapter trigger, bringing us to chapter 3, titled Heat. In Mirror's Edge, there's a hint button the player can use that points Faith and the camera in the direction of the objective. If you hold the hint key during an animation,
Alright, I don't like that.
Chapter 3.
This came up when I brought up, when I explained how he'll finish the chapter. I don't like that. I much prefer this coming up when we actually finish the chapter. Because otherwise they're like, wait, did he finish the chapter? What? Why is this up already? Just have this pop up like 3-4 seconds later when he actually finishes the chapter. It's too confusing if it pops up early.
Heat. In Mirror's Edge, there's a hint button the player can use that points Faith and the camera in the direction of the objective. If you hold the hint key during an animation, the moment Faith finishes the animation and the player has control again, the camera will snap to face the direction of the hint. On an upcoming wall, we'll do a hint climb, which is wall climbing and jumping off of the wall but holding the hint key during the animation, so Faith will face the wall again and do a fast vault over the ledge. Here we also run around a fence real quick, seemingly walking over air with no floor, which is possible due to the game snapping us up to the ledge if we don't have enough height to clear the ledge, which is why we can just run around the fence.
Alright, right here.
Run around a fence real quick, seemingly walking off of the wall,
here?
but...
Yes, this hint climb, countdown, and call out, really good. Something, also, 50 minutes into this video. As always, please leave comments. Let me know your thoughts if you agree with me, disagree with me, etc., etc. Anything I didn't say, anything I talked about that, you know, you have a different view on. I'd love to hear your thoughts because your feedback as well helps me learn. I like, and this, this right here is something that I'm like, maybe other people feel differently.
Holding the hint
Right here, we only have about 3-second warning for hint climb, and it's going to say hint climb in 3, 2, 1,
key
right?
during the animation, so Faith will face the wall again and do a fast vault.
Now, I feel as though in most of my videos where I've done countdowns, I give the viewer more time to be ready for that. I feel as though I will often put those call outs in for when he's going to do something, like the on-screen reminders, like in X, Y, X minus 1, X minus. I feel like I'll do that when we're at like 8 seconds out, 6 seconds out or more, 6 to 8 seconds out or more. If it's going to be that long or longer, then yeah, I'll put the countdown on screen. If it's like 3 seconds like this, though, I feel like I would just say when he runs to the building up here. But now that, I don't know, seeing it with this short countdown, I kind of liked it with how short of a countdown it was because it's still very fresh on the mind. And yeah, 3 seconds versus 8 or 12 seconds doesn't sound like that big of a difference, but that's 5 to 9 seconds of additional commentary we're having to focus on while we are paying attention for a glitch that was just explained that we're waiting to happen, right? Like, I feel like having that shorter countdown call out is like low key a boon. I kind of like that. And I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on the short no notice countdown versus just calling out with commentary versus a longer one. It's interesting. I didn't expect me to like this short call out time as much as I do.
Over the ledge. Here we also run around a fence real quick, seemingly walking over air with no floor, which is possible due to the game snapping us up to the ledge if we don't have enough height to clear the ledge, which is why we can just run around the fence. We're then going to perform a pretty sizable skip across this chapter. The first part of the skip requires us to climb up some canopies, which will bring us close enough to the ledge of the building that we can climb on up. Climbing up on top of the building puts us out of bounds. Once on top of the building, Vodium then is going to perform a kick glitch and some wall boosts to propel himself way out into the city block, where we hit a checkpoint trigger in the air. Once the circle and arrow logo pops up in the lower left corner, we quit out and load the checkpoint to put us back in bounds. Loading back in, we get a bit of dialogue saying that our goal should be to work towards the big red cranes in the distance. As we make our way there, we get attacked by some bad guys in helicopters, but luckily we're so fast we can outrun their projectiles. Also, the fact we're weaving in and out of cover helps a bit too. At one point we perform a series of wall boosts, which honestly, watching a chain of them is one of the most satisfying things to watch in the run for me. Once we make it to the final building, we'll sidestep boost and perform a drop kick to enter the building quickly and boost our way on over to an elevator. We're actually going to hit a checkpoint during this elevator ride, so instead of waiting around and fully reading propaganda pieces on runners like Faith, Vodium will quit out again and load from the checkpoint to skip the back end of the elevator ride. Once we get back outside, it's normally where we'll climb up the...
All right. I'm doing a good job of explaining things in advance, but it's too many things being explained in advance for me. I feel like it's way too much to keep track of. I'm now losing track. It's just a lot. I do feel like when you're going to explain things in advance, you do need to let it breathe a little bit, because otherwise it's just... It's too much, It's like you keep tossing things into the viewer's hands to hold on to, and it begins, their cup overfloweth, right? It's just a little too much to constantly keep track of. So I would have preferred the explaining in advance is great. I would have preferred there to be a bit more time to digest, a bit more time to retain and then recognize what's going to go on, and not just keep like, and this, you're going to need this, and 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 just stack it all up. It's a little overwhelming. this just feels like something where it's all about finding that right balance, where I've talked in the past before, like, you know, I harp all the time about syncing up commentary to gameplay and how it's good to have things in advance. It's I've also talked about how, like, I like how my videos are super dense and might require additional watches. Though that denseness thing and things requiring additional watches and rewinding, that to me is different than what's going on here. With what's going on here, you know, it's like I said, we are telling the viewer not just the next town that the train we're on is going to stop in, but the next dozen towns we're going to stop in. It's a lot. It's really a lot. Whereas the other example I was talking about, having it be really dense and you have to stop, you have to like rewind, that's more as if like we're on this train and we're on like a fucking bullet train that's stopping every second and I'm trying to keep up. Then you go back and review. It's a bit different piling it on all up in advance and saying you have to memorize all of this because it's all going to happen, as opposed to saying this is all happening really fast. Here it is as it happens. It's a bit different. And I definitely think the latter is better than the former, because the latter to me kind of elevates the speedrun in a way of like, yeah, you think it's fucking crazy to keep up with? Imagine doing it, right? The other one's more like just kind of encumbering the viewer.
Cranes and perform a huge...
I'm going to go back about 30 seconds. Yeah, here. So here is when we're told that we need to go to the cranes in the distance. Just kind of watch this segment and see how you feel. Let me know if you feel the same way, because that was my big takeaway with this part. God, I've been recording an hour and we're 11 minutes into this video. I'm curious what you guys think about this, but I really feel like we're getting loaded on with a pile of things here, and it's hard to track it all.
Blog saying that our goal should be to work towards the big red cranes in the distance.
Got it.
As we make our way there, we get attacked by some bad guys in helicopters, but luckily we're so fast we can outrun their projectiles.
Okay. Waiting to get
also,
attacked by
helicopter. Also, the fact
we're
weaving in and out of cover helps a bit too.
Oh, it's
At one
happening
point,
now.
we perform a series of wall boosts, which honestly,
wall
watching a
boosts
chain of them is one of the most satisfying things to watch in the run for me.
Waiting for the series of wall
Once we
boosts.
make it to the final building, we'll sidestep
All right,
boost and perform a drop kick to enter the building quickly and boost our way on over to an elevator.
Okay, hold on.
We're actually going to hit a checkpoint during this elevator ride, so instead of waiting around and fully reading propaganda pieces on runners like Faith, Vodium will quit out again and load from the checkpoint to skip the back end of the elevator ride.
Wait, was that it?
Once we get back outside, it's normally where we'll climb up the cranes and perform a huge daring leap across the big gap. Instead, we can build up a bunch of momentum and then kick glitch across the...
You see what I mean? It's just a lot of... It's just a lot. It's a lot to ask the viewer to memorize and keep track of all of it. And it's one of those things where syncing is so important. Syncing the commentary and gameplay is so important, because if I just bump this back 5-10 seconds, it is happening as the commentary is happening, and it's super easy to remember, and super easy to process what's going on. But when you have it out of sync like this in advance, which again, explaining things in advance is great. It's really good. In fact, it's ideal most of the time. But when you just like are constantly explaining everything in advance, you're kind of asking the viewer to desync the information of what they're getting with the information of what they're seeing. You're desyncing those. And keeping the information desynced in your mind is really hard. Really hard if you're just learning this, right? Yeah, I think that's the big thing, is I explain too many things in advance.
The huge gap without ever having to climb the cranes. This is momentum and then kick glitch across the huge gap.
The newest threat to children, running.
Gap without...
Good game.
Ever having to climb the cranes. This is called a speedy kick glitch. What makes this kick glitch so speedy is that we hit the lip of the building, which gives us a lot of upward velocity for a moment, and wall run directly out of it, which converts the upward velocity to forward velocity. By then doing a precisely timed kick glitch, we maintain that momentum and can cross the gap. Crossing the gap itself isn't the trigger to continue the mission though, so we have to climb up on top of a crate real quick to hit the trigger. Us climbing on top of this crate absolutely stuns Mercury, the voice in our earpiece. As you can hear, he cannot believe that we had the gall to just climb on top of a crate like that.
I just do what I think you did? God damn it, girl, I just spilled my Joe all over the keyboard.
Hey,
Good.
can you get a message to Miller?
Good joke. Good
I need
joke.
to see him again.
Sure.
I always love pointing out the silliness that speedrunning implies to the story. Like, for example, recently at AGDQ, I was couching for Brian Otto's COD 4 run and the all gillied up mission. It's like the stealth mission, and Brian Otto, he was just like, you know, strafing around. I'm like, what? You're supposed to be stealthing right now, but like, what do these people think? That a bush is just running and jumping at them? Like, I think that adds a lot. It's something I always try to do, though I'm not the best at pointing those out. Usually it's people who have like the hundreds, thousands of hours in the game and a lot of time thinking about it. They are the ones who have those observations the best, but I do love the little observations like that.
Marks the end of chapter 3 and brings us to chapter 4, which is titled Rope Burn. Right at the start of the chapter, we wall climb and side hop onto the ledge of a door, and then wall climb again, which lets us get on top of the building. From here, we're going to start building up some speed, and then perform a precisely timed and spaced kick glitch to let us soar over a barbed wire fence. There, we'll be next to a skylight, which we can just slide into at a certain angle, and we'll drop through the roof and go out of bounds. Vodium will then pause buffer a little bit to get the game to load in, after which we'll hit a trigger to load the next area. But it won't be fully loaded since we sequence broke the chapter. Not to worry though, because we get back into a loaded area pretty quickly and make our way to the subway tracks. Here we do a bunch of wall boosts and shove our knee into a wall that looks like blue moon sand. We boost down to the entrance of a tunnel where we'll actually get jump scared by passing subway cars. Here we do a wall climb and jump off and do the hint key thing from earlier and get snapped up to the nearby ledge. After slowly sliding down the ear vent, we barge into the next room and perform a jump off a wall to vault onto the upper floor where we hit.
This commentary is like a second, 2 seconds too late for everything.
The emergency door override and make a beeline back towards the subway tracks, because having our light flash before our eyes just once wasn't enough for us. We then casually bunny hop down the subway tracks, paying no heed to the fact that realistically some subway cars could come at any moment, but Vodium is super familiar with their schedule and knows that they aren't due anytime soon. After then leaping over the other subway track, Vodium drops down to the floor below and slides through a crawlway and spooks a rat. We then wall run and jump up to a platform where we activate the ventil crawlway and spooks a rat.
I like this too because it's like, I sometimes like explaining little things that have nothing to do with the speedrun. Just like little things that happen. It's like a joke explanation just thrown into the middle, because like this is so inconsequential and has nothing to do with the speedrun, but it's just kind of funny.
We then wall run and jump up to a platform where we activate the ventilation emergency cutoff for aeration chambers 7 and 8. Once the ventilation systems in aeration chambers 7 and 8 come to a halt, we hop on through and prepare to fulfill my life goal of cosplaying as one of Tom Hanks' characters in the Polar Express. It's the hobo. I've always wanted to be the hobo in the Polar Express. There are actually things you can get hit by when you're on top.
Yeah, so again I guess this right here we had a bit of downtime, so I was able to kind of linger on this joke. As opposed to earlier with the Dark Knight Rises one, how I kept talking through it. You know, I think it depends on the timing, spacing of everything, but I think both work. I actually really did like that Dark Knight Rises call out or joke earlier, where I just kept going with the commentary and didn't let it detract. I feel like that's something that I have done a lot, is kind of let the bit take over the commentary a bit too much, and sometimes you just got to keep it rolling. Right here is fine though, because of the fact that it's, you know, we have a moment. But like that Dark Knight Rises one earlier was really good.
I wanted to be the hobo in the Polar Express.
This is just a good joke.
There are actually things you can get hit by when you're on top of the train, so we have to be careful to avoid them to not take damage. Wait, Vodium, what are you doing? No, stop. Dude. Okay, thankfully we've leapt to the other train where there are no more obstacles to avoid, and of course Vodium does a backflop to take some more damage. At least we can just lay here and chill for the rest of the ride. Wait, are you serious? I guess we just have to sit here and wait as we watch large poles slam Faith in between the legs. The train finally starts hitting the brakes, meaning
I think that segment, it's good. It's good. I think my delivery was bad. Maybe I'm just being picky about myself. It sounds bad. It sounds false. It sounds forced. Funny segment, mainly because of what Vodium's doing. I don't like my delivery of it. I'm not sure how I would word it better these days. It always feels weird to me, kind of pretending to not know something's coming, because like we all know I know, and I feel like I'm bad at playing it off otherwise. At least maybe I was really bad at this point. But I don't know. I feel like like during that I'm like cringing at myself. Funny bit though. Funny bit with what Vodium was doing. And I think that the joke of watching Faith, this large poles slam Faith between the legs, I think that's funny. I think I would bump that up, not linger as much on the like, wait, Vodium, what the fuck are you doing? I think I would have been just a bit more crass there, and also deliver that line about Faith earlier. I think that's what I would change there. But that's just me being picky about the humor and delivery of something.
the end of the ride must be approaching, and Vodium clearly just wants Faith to get hit between the legs with one last sign. Oh, never mind. That one was an actual strat to get caught on the sign and drop down next to the exit door.
Good misdirection there.
At the start of Chapter 5, titled New Eden, we get a quick running start and then perform a kick glitch off a nearby building to land on a super narrow invisible platform. This invisible platform is the width of the raised ledge of the building below us. After dropping down into the street where the security dudes notice what we've done, we run while taking fire and use the roof of a car as a springboard to clear a fence. This leads to us bursting through a series of 3 doors, which will lead us to another elevator. The first interior section we have to go slow through, otherwise the elevator won't load. At this elevator, we're going to perform another elevator clip to get on top, but this elevator shaft actually leads straight to the roof, so we're able to just hop off the top of the elevator onto the roof early. We do have to wait a moment though for everything to load once we make it to the roof, but we take this moment to line ourselves up. Once everything loads in, we make a running leap across a street to some buildings where we're going to perform what's called an infinite wall climb. This is done by wall climbing and then side jumping. If you side jump while wall climbing, you're able to perform a little wall run on the same wall. Well, if you're wall running, you're then able to jump off of the wall, which then lets us wall climb up a different wall. On that wall, we then climb and side jump, and then wall run and leap off.
We're well past this point. The explanation, I'm feeling like for long explanations like this, if I could go back, I would just like cut them off. Because like, what is this serving us right now? Unless infinite wall climbs come back later.
Perform the process all over again. This lets us chain wall climbs infinitely between 2 nearby parallel walls, letting us get to the top of the building. Now, while we have time and Vodium is tearing this chapter apart, I want to just go over 2 smaller, more subtle parts of the run real quick. The first is something called air steering. Now, this one is a bit of a common feature in games where you're able to leave the ground despite not really obeying real-world physics. In Mirror's Edge, if you're in the air and traveling one direction, you can very slightly steer while in air by looking in the desired direction and holding the forward key. Now, this doesn't work if you try to strafe with side directional keys. It only works if you're facing the direction you want to steer slightly towards. This is used a lot throughout the run, especially when we're doing kick glitches everywhere, and is used to try and place our landing in as optimal a location as possible. Before I get to the second smaller thing I want to explain, I have to quickly explain a major skip that happens later in the chapter called Mall Beamer, which I'll do a countdown to as it's about to happen. Earlier, I briefly talked about Speedy Kick Glitch, where we hit the lip of a ledge and convert that upward momentum into forward momentum. For Mall Beamer, we wall climb and hit a lip protruding from a wall, which gives us momentum away from the wall, which when we turn around allows us to vault a railing, letting us skip a lot of the shopping mall later in the chapter. Back to the smaller subtle things. The second thing I want to explain real quick is called extended wall climb, which has already been used a lot throughout the run. So obviously you can only wall climb so high before Faith loses traction and upward momentum and starts to fall down. The height that Faith climbs changes based on whether or not you had a running start before the wall climb, or if you were stationary beforehand, with the former giving you just a bit more height than the latter. An extended wall climb makes it so that a stationary wall climb will have as much height as a wall climb where you had a running start. Wall climbs are usually triggered by running or jumping into a wall and holding the forward key. If you instead jump into the wall and then delay the pressing of your forward key just slightly, then you'll get a little bit of extra height on the wall climb. This comes in handy in two ways. First is that...
All right, Mall Beamer, it would have been nice if when I was explaining Wall Beamer, the explanation of it kind of typed out on screen, because it was explained a little bit ago and it's a little wordy. You know, it's a very technical run in that, like, what exactly something is very easy to forget. It's very easy for me to have watched that first Mall Beamer segment and then sit here and be like, Mall Beamer, what was it? Something about jumping over a ledge at the mall to skip stuff? Really, that's all I remembered. That's all I really retained. So it would have been nice to maybe have, like, Mall Beamer, like, and have it fill in, like, climb the ledge, jump over this rail, be able to reach another thing, and then have that pop back in for when it happens, right? I think that would have been nice. I don't know what's going on with my headset and my hair anyway.
It lets us have more speed going into the vault or climb when we reach the top of the wall we're climbing up, even if we weren't able to have a running start to our wall climb. The second thing that an extended wall climb lets us do is that even if we aren't able to get a running start based on our surroundings, we can still reach higher up things that normally wouldn't be possible with a stationary wall climb. This will come in handy in a big way closer to the end of the run, because we'll be doing a skip in the final chapter that is entirely dependent on the fact that we're able to extended wall climb to get up to a spot we aren't normally supposed to get up to with a stationary wall climb. But as I said earlier, extended wall climb is used a lot throughout the whole run. Back to what Vodium's been up to, we just dropped down into what seems to be an ambush, but luckily Vodium frequents the shopping center and has the directory memorized, so he knows that we can just climb to the upper level and use some walkways to completely avoid the baddies. We can then make a beeline to the chapter end, bringing us to chapter 6, titled Pirandello Kruger, but this is marred by the fact we don't get to hear who Faith's little friend is.
Looks like my little friend.
Near the start of chapter 6, we're going to be going out of bounds again, and things are going to get psychedelic with the graphics for a moment or two. First though, we're going to drop from one zipline to another, which honestly, just thinking about doing in real life makes my gut drop. We then jump to out of bounds and land/roll briefly on an invisible platform to reduce our fall height so we don't take damage. We're now out of bounds where walls are merely a suggestion, and as I alluded to earlier, this is where things start looking trippy again. A while ago I explained something called Use Glitch, where we press the interact key twice on the same frame, but something I neglected to mention is that it lets you interact with things through walls, as Vodium does here to hit the switch for the conveyor belts through the wall.
Okay.
We then spring through the factory area and are going to be dropping an enormous distance in a second. To mitigate fall damage, Vodium grabs a ledge.
Right here I kind of obscured an added piece of information about the tech, which I think is good. I think it's okay to be like, by the way, this glitch that we've been using, we can also use it for this. I think that that's fine. I think that that's good. You don't need to explain the full extent of something up front, similar to how you don't need to explain all of the movement tech for this run up front. You can do it drip feed. And I think that that was good. By the way, this glitch, you can use it in this way as well. Good.
Halfway down the enormous drop so we don't completely murk ourselves when we land. We're then going to quickly hit another button through a wall and do a neutral kick when dropping into a hallway to avoid the landing animation. This brief hallway segment consists of a lot of wall boosts, which I love, and leads to another elevator that we ride up. While we have a second, hi, how are you? Let me know in the comments. I hope you're having a good day and staying safe. The world is crazy right now, but I hope you're doing alright both physically and mentally. Okay, back to the run. When the ride stops, we see...
Ladies, gentlemen, NBs, that was the first proto No Feeling is Final section. I included that because of COVID. I do have people who go back and watch older videos of mine, and like pre this video, I've had people comment on like, you know, my anthology run, or like, you know, just random things to be like, why the fuck didn't you do No Feeling is Final in this video? What the hell? That was weird. Like, well, I didn't start doing it until COVID started. It was COVID started, and I included that line, and then I did again in this during the Robo Sandy fight. Whatever one's like, there's a boss fight, and it's during the boss fight. During one of the boss fights, I do that in here, and that's like the first one where I really do it, and then I just continue to do it. So yeah, that was the first ever No Feeling is Final. Pretty interesting to hear.
All right, both
simplicity.
physically and mentally. Okay, back to the run. When the ride stops, we see two fools who are looking to square up. They're a bit too menacing for us though, so we immediately turn around and dip, trying to make our escape from the area. After climbing up the abstract art in the center of the room, we're going to bunny hop briefly on a walkway and then enter another elevator. At least this one has some light reading for us on. An anonymous poll that the city's police force doesn't like the results of. I'll let you all read it for yourself though.
Recent anonymous polls held by Nelson indicate over half of the city's populace has used illegal methods to transport clearances, paperwork, and other governmentally secured information. Confronted with these figures, the CPF has derided them as preposterous and claimed no such polling could possibly be accurate. Nelson stands by the accuracy of their polls, said Herman Bonds, head of Nelson Assessment and Heuristics Division. We believe that core sample is accurate. There has been no further comment from the city officials or the mayor's office. Interesting. Man, this game has a lot of, like, I know it's a dystopian game. Man, this game has a lot of, like, satirical elements to it like that.
When we get to exiting the elevator, we'll proceed down a hallway where a couple windows will get broken for us to jump through, but the final window we have to do ourselves. Outside, Vodium will then make a break for the end of the chapter, which is triggered by jumping on top of a moving train and riding it to the next chapter. This movement across the city consists of all the things we've talked about before, like kick glitching, wall boosts, bunny hopping, sidestep boosting, and more. On the zipline, we'll see the train approaching, and Vodium will then trust fall onto it. Maybe because he too has a natural draw and trust towards trains like me, the hobo from the Polar Express.
That was good. Good joke. Good delivery on a joke there. This really works for me. One, because it's a callback too. Like, of course, it's like, delivery on a setup. But two, it's really absurd, like having a natural draw and trust towards trains, and it also really buries the punchline. Like, while you're listening to this for the first time, you're like, what the fuck? Oh,
Draw and trust towards trains like me, the hobo from the Polar Express.
Good joke. Just good joke all around.
Faith then lounges on the roof of the train, talking with Mercury, seemingly not remembering what happened the last time we laid down on the roof of a train. This leads us to Chapter 7, The Boat, which is the shortest chapter of the run because pretty much all of it is skipped. Our first goal to start this chapter is going to be to get out of bounds, hit a checkpoint trigger, and then quit out and load from the checkpoint as we've done before. To get out of bounds here, we have to kick glitch over this barbed wire fence, which actually is...
I'm pretty sure, maybe I talked about this in the video, that like the name of this boat is like, I don't know what language, somewhere in Scandinavia, I want to say. Maybe it was Swedish, or like cucumber or something, because of how it looks.
To get out of bounds here, we have to kick glitch over this barbed wire fence, which actually is a pretty tight squeeze. Once out, we can then bunny hop through some cars and concrete barriers to the checkpoint trigger, which we hit after climbing over a barrier rather than running around it. Once we climb over the barrier and land by the floating storage tank, we have a moment to admire the nearby ship named the Gurkha 2 before the checkpoint is actually triggered. When we load back in, we'll be under fire from a masked figure who we have to take out. And we take them out in typical Vodium fashion.
Careful, thing.
Really good. I liked that wasn't explained. I think that was really good. Choosing to not explain that made it all the better, because is that something you really need explained? No, you can kind of get the idea of what's going on by just watching it, right? Especially because we've been trust falling onto people so much. I think, I think there's also room there by like we overwhelm the enemy with our excessive trust and that defeats them. I think there's a joke for that there too. But I think just letting this moment be goofy and glitchy and, you know, speak for itself, I think that that's good. I think that that goes a long way. Good moment.
After disarming the baseball lump, the chapter ends and we look.
All right, let's talk rhyming real quick. Load into chapter 8 titled Kate. And then I go, that rhymed. And then all of chapter 8 is rhyming. I love rhyming. I love alliteration. I love wordplay. I love all of this stuff. I want to do it more. But to me, for me to do something with rhyming or alliteration or, you know, that type of stuff, it has to feel a bit natural. And I'm going to be honest, I have wanted to do entire portions of videos rhyming like I did in this section, but every time I've tried to do it, it's just felt a little bit too forced. I do have random lines in videos that are like a shit ton of alliteration or rhyming in just like one line, like one really long line that has like 8 rhymes in it. You know, I've done stuff like that, and I think that that's good. I like doing stuff like that. I would love to do something big and ambitious like I did here with the entire chapter rhyming. But I don't want to do it just for the sake of doing it though, you know? Granted, it's been like half a decade since I made this video, so I think that I think that at this point I could do it for the sake of doing it and it wouldn't feel forced considering it's been half a decade. But I think that it's just got to feel right. And this felt really right. This felt really, really right. And I get so many comments from people to this day saying, I didn't realize you were rhyming until after the chapter ended. Or, wow, I'm watching this video for the 4th time and I'm just realizing now that you rhymed that entire chapter. Really? Took you that long to realize? Yeah, I really like this section. I remember really struggling with writing it. I mean, understandably so, because I'm explaining speed tech while rhyming. But I would like to do stuff like this again. I really like wordplay. I really like I said, alliteration. What's the one with the middle? Consonation, I think, is alliteration, but it's when it's in the center of the word or not at the start of the word. Yeah, really excited to watch this chapter again because it has been a long time.
Into chapter 8 titled Kate. That rhymed. Not sure if that was intended. Anyways, let's check back in on the story of the game before the run is ended. There was that public figure I mentioned a while ago who took a big sleep, and our sister is being blamed, so she's in pretty deep. We found the miscreant though. They're the masked figure we just fought, but we still have to rescue Kate since she's already been caught. She's currently imprisoned in a SWAT convoy, but we know of a vantage point from where we can foil their ploy.
I do like that I'm spending some time to recap the story. I really like talking about the story of the game as it goes on. I feel like that's something that the past handful of videos I haven't really done, though I think that has more to do with the games I'm covering and the speedruns I'm covering than the actual, you know, video production process. Like my most recent videos are Simpsons Hit and Run. I did it a fair bit throughout all of that. Before that, though, was all romances. There's no storyline there. Before that was Cuphead. There's really not much of a storyline there. So, and then before that is Half-Life 2. I think I did a little bit there, though I think that generally it's pretty loose with the storyline and don't need it too much. But I do really like recapping the storylines. I'm also currently working on a Dark Souls video, and that doesn't really have storylines. And I'm currently also working on a Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 video, which won't have storylines. But the next video after that, I think will. We will see. We will see. We will see. But I like that I'm taking time to recap the story. It helps provide context for the game as a whole. Overall, good to do.
First though, we have to traverse the city and go for an elevator ride, and Vodium enjoys the music while he waits inside.
Yeah, go Vodium, go Vodium, go Vodium, go Vodium, go Vodium, yeah.
Once we get back outside and into the sun, we continue to kick glitch and also wall run.
Locate that drop. I'll get on to Krieg. See if you can move.
We'll eventually climb up some scaffolding and swing around, after which Vodium will then jump right out of bounds. This won't be a graceful landing though. It's so high our legs implode, but luckily we hit a checkpoint so we can just quit out and load. When we load back in, we're going to be in an atrium, but Vodium will make it look like a gymnasium. It's an incredibly vertical section that should take a lot of time, but we can make quick work of it with a few infinite wall climbs. By the way, one common question about this run is how we can jump off of rails. Well, you can stand on anything for a few frames before our footing fails. Normally at the end of this area, we have to climb into a vent, but with some wall climbs and wall boosts, we can skip that segment. This skip is done by jumping out of bounds and then hitting and loading a checkpoint before we hit the ground. This brings us to where we snipe the van our sister is in, but normally we have to wait for the van to appear to begin. If instead we jump off this scaffold and expire, the van's hitbox will spawn and be subject to our fire.
So far, I like this rhyming segment. It's good. It's fun. It's lighthearted. It's doing a good job of explaining the story and everything during a segment where there's not as much to explain. Also, things are still explained, which is great. And here I wanted to call out, right here, Vodium is about to show off a Easter egg where you shoot a specific thing and a big old rat the size of a van runs down the road. This is something that Vodium, if I remember correctly, Vodium himself messaged me and was like, yo, do you mind if I show this off? And I was like, yeah, sure. And whenever I make my videos now, whenever I'm reaching out to people, talking to them and everything, once they're on board, in my original, let me backtrack. In my original outreach message I send to people, I include a line in there that's something along the lines of, hey, by the way, like, there's a little more to what I'm looking for with this video, but it essentially amounts to have fun with it. If you have things you want to show off, feel free to show them off. And then once they agree to make the video and everything, I send some examples of, like, you know, like, for example, here, Vodium shows off an Easter egg where you can spawn a giant rat, or in the Oblivion run, Sandy shows off his character being blue, or in the video, the Stardew Valley video I made with the Habu, Habu shows off getting rejected, like, from your spouse trying to kiss them the day after your wedding. Stuff like that. So I'll always send that to the runners I'm working with and say, like, hey, feel free to, you know, show off anything goofy, do any detours if you'd like. You know, anything you want to show off, because it adds a lot of personality, it adds fun stuff. So this is like a very impactful moment in my speedrunning videos, at least to me, because this I think was the moment that, like, I really solidified in my mind, like, yeah, this is showing off goofy stuff, showing off Easter eggs, showing off stuff like this. This is good. This is good. It's not necessary to do, but it adds a little bit of extra entertainment value to the run. This is an exhibition run anyway. We're not looking for world records here. So this is a big moment to me.
If we snipe this specific window, we'll somehow hit the spawned hitbox of the van, and then watch as Vodium unleashes the Black Plague upon man.
Connors, convoy. What's your status? Over?
We also have no arms now after freeing our sister from her captor because Vodium did a fun glitch that will last the rest of the chapter. With our position compromised, it's time to make a dash down the hall, and then drop down several stories, doing our best to try and break our fall. After rolling a few times and reaching the ground floor, we'll exit the chapter through the revolving door. This marks the end of Chapter 8, titled Kate, and leads into the final chapter, Chapter 9, which is titled The Shard. Now, right
that still makes me laugh, just because the reason why I laughed here is, and I included the laugh, is it's such an abrupt way to stop a rhyming scheme. Like, After rolling a few times and reaching the ground floor, we'll exit the chapter through the revolving door. This marks the end of Chapter 8 titled Kate and leads into the final chapter, Chapter 9, The Shard. Like, it just does not rhyme at all.
Chapter 9, which is titled The Shard. Now, right near the start of this chapter is a moment where we have to turn a valve to let a hallway flood with combustible gas. This is because the pathway we're to take is locked and we need to huff and puff and blow the door down. We usually hide in a small crawl space during this, but Vodium likes putting Faith through the ringer, so instead we're going to just lie down directly underneath an open flame next to the door that'll get blown open. This door actually gets opened before the explosion ever happens, but we still take a lot of damage from the fire. Luckily, the bad guys outside are this universe's equivalent to stormtroopers, and we're able to just run right by them without getting hit. We then hop into an elevator and see an article detailing our feats from the previous chapter, but the door opens up before we really have time to read it and make snide comments about how the author decided to do this weird rhyming thing throughout the whole article.
That's good. Hey, like that was really good. Because one, it brings attention to the whole rhyming thing, which somehow people missed. Two, it kind of, teases myself in a way where it's like, yeah, no, fucking like kind of weird I did that, but funny. And that just, it just shows that not taking it too seriously. So I like that little joke. Overall, the explanations during this part have been a lot more subdued in the way that I feel runs typically get when you're this late in them, where most of the stuff has been explained. And the viewer really will understand most of the things that are going on just kind of visually, and you only really need to call out what they're doing and why. There's less actual tech to explain, so there's definitely less to comment on in the last 10 minutes of this run or
This
so.
leads us to an ambush where we're severely outnumbered by a ton of stormtroopers, but again, they're stormtroopers, so we really aren't in any imminent danger. We then hop into an elevator and clip to get on top of it, but we're going to walk off of it once it reaches the top. Once we walk off of it though, nothing will have loaded, so we have to pause buffer to wait for everything around us to load before we can go any further. Once everything does load in though, we walk forward just a little bit and hit a checkpoint, which we then quit out and load. Now, remember a long time ago when I mentioned how an extended wall climb would come in handy in a big way closer to the end of the run? This will come in handy in a big way closer to the end of the run. Well, this is where it is.
What an abrupt flashback. I do the flashbacks a lot. I like doing the flashbacks. They're fun. It's fun finding new ways to implement them. They're really there's a specific name for this humor online. I think it's named after a specific person who used to do it a lot on maybe Yahoo Answers or something. I could be misremembering the type of humor where it's the humor is in that you're just repeating yourself exactly, or asking stupid questions that repeat things. I love that type of humor. I love including it in my videos with the flashbacks. Cool to see this first flashback where it's a lot less actual contextual than I thought. I often like to do this to re-explain something, just really beat the dead horse, right? The joke is I'm beating the dead horse, but I know I'm beating the dead horse. That's the joke. But this one is so abrupt and doesn't help at all that it's hilarious.
Time ago when I mentioned how an extended wall climb would come in handy in a big way closer to the end of the run. This will come in handy in a big way closer to the end of the run. Well, this is
and the fact that it cuts me off and it's so fast, that's hilarious. That's actually so funny. I love that. I love the pointless flashback of it. The pointlessness of the flashback is what I really like. I feel like there might be one more flashback. I could be wrong. I think that might be the only one, unless I do one more quick one within a minute. But that was a good one. That one plays for humor really well, especially because it's so come and gone. It happens and it's gone. It's very fast.
This is where it is, because we extended wall climb and sidestep to get on top of this security light, which lets us skip most of the level by just bunny hopping along this out of bounds ledge. We'll then drop off the ledge and neutral kick to not only avoid the landing animation, but to also open the door so we can head to the end of the chapter. We need to take an elevator that's down at the end of the hallway, so we do some quick maneuvering inside. Once we get to the elevator, we passionately press our hands against the door, but once the doors open, we perform the final elevator clip of the run. In typical dramatic fashion, this is also the longest elevator ride of the entire run. While riding this elevator up, we have an incredible view of the city all lit up blue. When the elevator eventually reaches the top, Vodium will hop off and hit the checkpoint, then quit out and load to get everything to load in properly.
It looks like the security doors to the roof are closed. Okay. If you destroy those servers, their emergency protocol should automatically...
This will bring us to another standoff with some stormtroopers, who actually land a singular shot in their enormous volley that they send our way. Here, we're going to wall climb and we'll be able to clip slightly out of bounds to climb into an adjacent hallway, skipping a bit of this indoor area. Right now, we're making our break for the roof where Jackknife, the guy who we saw A-posing a long time ago, is holding our sister captive. Once we exit to the roof though, we hit a checkpoint and immediately quit and load to skip a long cutscene. This puts us into a little final confrontation where Jackknife is in a helicopter with our sister, trying to get away, and we make our leaping backflop to grab onto the helicopter and kick him out of it. The run officially ends when we grab onto the helicopter. If you've made it to the end of the video, I'd like to say thank you on behalf of both myself and Vodium. This run is really jam-packed and a lot went into making it by all parties involved. I'd also like to apologize for how long it took to come out. It's been over a month since my last video and is the longest I've gone without uploading since the tail end of 2018. Thank you for your patience, and also thank you to those of you uploading since the tail end
would be killing her.
2018.
Oh my god, you're holding her up by the handcuffs? Her wrist would snap.
Thank you for your patience, and also thank you to those of you who support the channel on Patreon. Patreon is easily the best way to support the channel, and if you throw in as little as $1 a month, you get early access to videos as well as updates on videos as they're being made. It's super unnecessary though, and I understand it's not in everyone's budget, especially with the current state of the world. That's all for this video though. Let me know your thoughts on it by either leaving a comment below, or joining my Discord server and leaving feedback in the video discussion channel, link is in the description. This was an Any% Speedrun of Mirror's Edge. I've been Tomato Anus, and I hope you have an above average day.
Alright. Well. Mirror's Edge video. Overall my thoughts, good video. I really enjoyed it. I do think that there are parts of it that the commentary just was really behind. I don't think it's my best explained video, but I do think it was, relatively well done overall. I think that it's, yeah, good. I would say just in general that there was a good balance between humor and explanation, and I think just overall pretty well done. I have a lot of notes though, so I'm gonna run through all of them real quick. The first was that showing footage of the world record early in the video at the start was good. Shows like interesting buggy footage, and it's like an immediate like hook for the viewer, like, oh, that seems interesting, okay, I'll stick around to see that explained. Also the intro visuals kind of laying out the plot, all of that stuff just felt really cohesive with the way they moved around in and out of frame. Felt like, it just felt like there was a bit of momentum to them. But yeah, the next note I had was that the tech and the explanations in this run were really drip fed, which really good. Helps keep the viewer engaged throughout the whole thing without overwhelming them. And it like looked for key moments to explain tech that's been used all along in most cases. And also most cases it's doing this, the drip feed is better than just doing a big old info dump at the start of the video and then watch it all. Like the drip feed is really nice because you're constantly discovering new things that have been there, and it kind of recontextualizes stuff. I really like the moment early on with the repeated like here and here and here and here. I liked all those call outs for wall boosting. That was a fun and engaging and snappy way to do you know call outs like that. So I like that. Um Also using like descriptive language for things in advance where things would take place, that was good. Like for example, I use when we enter the halls with the all white walls, right? When we enter the area with the all white walls, stuff like that can really eliminate the need for pop-in footage, which is really good if the footage is going to get really noisy. Also, there's the part where there's text on screen that just calls out, "We are now out of bounds." That was great. Great, great, great. Especially because that moment might be, you know, visually unclear whether or not you're out of bounds. So that was really good. I really liked that I did that. Big fan, big fan. Similarly, with callouts, I really like the visual callout in advance for where something will be by calling out the checkpoint symbol location. That was good. And I really liked that the commentary kept rolling during the Dark Knight Rises reference. The clip played and there was a sound effect, but I just kept talking. It made the joke very unintrusive, which was nice. I liked letting the viewer listen to hearing Jackknife run around like by us and whatnot. It was kind of a great moment to just let you observe how broken the game gets when you're speedrunning, which I think, you know, I think that's part of the appeal to speedrunning, especially with stuff like games done quick and whatnot, is seeing these games get broken, right? And I think that stuff like that is a good moment to just kind of like give the viewer a moment to like observe and be like, wow, this is pretty fucking broken. Not that, you know, not that just hearing a dude run near us was the game inherently breaking, but you know, it's not something you're normally supposed to be able to hear. The mission cross off coming up early was a bit confusing. Wasn't the biggest fan of that. The short countdown timer for calling out some things, that was a bit interesting. Again, would like to hear your guys' thoughts on this. It does give the viewer less time to prepare for what they're going to see, but it also gives them less to pay attention to. Less time where they're paying attention to multiple things, right? So I did like that. I did really like that for that aspect. But again, I could see the downside to it being like something like quick as opposed to having time to like really prepare to watch something happen. Explaining a bunch of things back to back to back in advance was really overwhelming. You need a bit of time to breathe. And I gave the analogy then, but like the analogy that I think pretty captures it pretty well is like you tell someone every stop a train is going to make in advance of, like, you know, at the start of the line. You got to memorize it all as it happens then, or it's like, you know, you're telling them all of the stops you're going to be stopping at, like as you're stopping at the first couple stops. It's a lot as opposed to just trying to explain it quickly as it happens. I think that it makes it a bit harder to keep track of, as opposed to, you know, watching and then rewatching. Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot to hold on to. Also, if explaining a complicated skip way in advance, maybe have the explanation of it worded on screen and pop back in when the skip is happening, like what happened with Mall Beamer. I think that could have been greatly improved by having some text on screen with that. Also, there was the joke near the end, take out the enemy in typical Vodium fashion, and then I let the gameplay play out with the flopping backwards onto the enemy. I like that the actual way that he killed him there didn't need to be actually explained, so you can just let the goofy visual happen, let the viewer connect it on their own. Just, you know, adds a little bit more to the viewing experience. I recapped the story of the game, which was good. I liked that. And also the pointless flashback was hilarious. I'm almost cutting myself off with it. It's like nothing of actual substance. It's just like really, really goofy. I think that flashbacks for that purpose are really funny. But yeah, overall, like I said, I really liked this video. I liked watching this back. I think it was interesting to watch, especially because of how impactful I feel this video is for my channel as a whole and the way I present things. So yeah, overall, good video. But I don't think I have too much else to add. A lot of notes for it. I'm curious how many pages this is going to be once I copy it into my notebook. Probably like 2 pages. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you support on Patreon, thank you so much for doing that. If you're watching on Tomato Angus in 2026, thank you for watching. Again, please leave comments. Let me know what you think. I think that's about it, though. This one's been going on for a while, so why don't we call it there? And yeah, we'll leave it at that. Thank you, everybody, for watching. As always, please have an above average day. Peace.